What is going on in the harmony for the Legend of Zelda main theme, otherwise known as Overworld by Koji Kondo? There are so many chromatic chords going on in there, so let's dig in. First things first, to know which chords are chromatic, we have to know what key we're in, and that means identifying the tonal center. There are multiple ways of establishing a tonal center. First is the more traditional dominant to tonic motion, which is going to be a 5-1 chord, or a 7-1 chord. Then you can also play the tonic note repeatedly, or play the tonic note as the lowest and the highest notes, or play the tonic in strong metrical positions and then leaving the other chords in weaker metrical positions. So those are just some ways of establishing a key, but how does the Zelda main theme establish a key? In the beginning, when we first start out, we just start out with a B flat major triad, so one, that's strong metrical position, and then we have this group of 4 measures before we get into the actual meat of the piece. We're going from F to B flat, which is again that dominant to tonic motion. So it's a combination of B flat being in strong metrical positions and then also that dominant to tonic motion. But after this introduction, the way that the tonal center is established changes a little bit because we're not getting every 4 measures of B flat. As you can see, we have a few extra measures going on in there, and then we also have B flat minor instead of B flat major going on. You can see that in just the way that the harmonic progression is changing as well. In the introduction, the harmony moves by steps. We go B flat, A flat, G flat, F, but then once we get into the meat of the piece, we go B flat to F, which is a relationship of a fifth, but then we're moving by step again to G flat, then a fifth to D flat, then step to C flat, step to B flat, step to C, then a fifth to F, then a fifth to B flat, then a fifth to F again, and then stepping to G. Now that we have an idea of what the tonal center is, which is B flat, we get to look at the cool chromatic stuff that's going on. So for those who don't know, chromatic refers to any chords that you're using that are outside the key you're in. These chords add more color beyond just using the chords that are in the key that you're already in, hence chroma for chromatic. So the first chord in the piece is B flat major, and then we get that again in bar 5 here. But if you know your scales well, then you'll notice that I actually notated this with 5 flats, which is the key signature for D flat major and B flat minor, instead of 2 flats, which would be the actual key signature for B flat major or G minor. So did I make a mistake? No, I did this on purpose because the next chords are A flat and G flat, which actually don't come from the key of B flat major. These are from the key of B flat minor, and we call them borrowed chords because we're borrowing these chords from another key. And this specific use of borrowed chords is a great example of what we call modal mixture. Modal mixture happens when we use chords from parallel keys, and parallel keys just share the same letter name, but they're major or minor. So B flat major and B flat minor are parallel keys. To help you see what's going on, here are all of the chords from B flat major and B flat minor lined up next to each other. You'll notice that none of these chords are the same in both keys. Something composers were fond of in the 19th century, especially in Western tonal music, was to collapse parallel keys together. So instead of being very clearly in the major mode and just borrowing a chord here or there from the minor mode, composers actually collapsed the 2 modes together to create one big key that used chords equally from both keys. That's what's happening here in the Zelda main theme. We start in B flat major with the B flat major triad, and then we immediately use chords from B flat minor. That's this A flat and the G flat. And then in measure 4, we get actually both versions of F. I didn't write it in the chord notation up here, but we start with F minor actually with an A flat in the bass, and then that switches to an A natural. So we get both F minor and F major that leads us to B flat. We continue this modal mixture in the next bars, going from B flat major again to F minor and then G flat. And then Kondo switches up that descending stepwise harmony to move by fifth instead. So we go from G flat up to D flat before stepping down to C flat. But wait, if you look back at our handy chart of chords from B flat major and B flat minor, you'll notice that C flat is not in either key. So something else is going on here. If you're familiar with tonal harmony at all, you might notice that C is scale step 2 in both B flat major and B flat minor. Lowering the C by a half step could give us a Neapolitan chord. So for those who don't know, a Neapolitan chord is a chord built from a lowered scale step 2 that usually functions as a predominant, which just means it steps very nicely into the 5 chord. But the chord here in the Zelda main theme isn't actually doing that. It's going to B flat minor, which is one of our tonics. It's not a dominant. So we need to look at context to figure out what's actually going on here and why this D flat major chord sounds like it actually belongs. So first, it's coming from D flat major. So even though C flat isn't part of the key, it's still only a step away from the previous chord, which follows the pattern of descending stepwise motion that Kondo had set up earlier in the piece. And then C flat major is going to B flat minor, which is only half a step away. And then third, C flat major, this chord here, uses notes from the B flat minor mode. So other than the root C flat, we have E flat and G flat, which all belong from B flat minor instead of B flat major. So because of these three things, it looks like this C flat major chord is somehow keeping us in the B flat minor mode. But wait, why wouldn't have Kondo just used whatever C chord is in the key of B flat minor then? In B flat minor, the C chord here is diminished, and that actually makes it tricky to stay in the key of B flat minor because diminished chords tend to lead very strongly to the chord that is a half step above them. So like I said before, a common way to establish a key is through dominant to tonic motion, which includes that 7 to 1 or diminished chord to the chord half step above it, in this case, D flat major. If we change it to C diminished, it's gonna sound like this. You'll hear that it doesn't quite lead to B flat minor as well anymore. In fact, it actually sounds like it's supposed to go back up to D flat, something like this. So that's why C flat major is important here, but then the question is why use a C chord at all and why not some other chord? Looking back at how the harmony worked before, this piece is characterized by harmonic descending stepwise motion. So Kondo used what's called a chromatic passing chord here to both stick with the style of harmonic motion that he was using before and to also lead downward to B flat. But then, why do we have just a regular C major chord in the next measure, which also isn't in the key of B flat major or B flat minor? Clearly something else is going on here. And for this, we also need more context. Basically, doing any kind of music theory analysis involves going back and forth and looking at context to really get what's going on. So what's going on when we hear the C major chord is that we're in the key of B flat minor by this point, and the chord is coming from a B flat minor and going to an F major chord. So the bigger context is that this F major chord here is at the end of like this little mini section, and we get a repetition of like the beginning of the theme coming after. So it goes straight into... So you hear that repetition. So if you've taken any tonal harmony classes at all, a little bell should be going off in your head saying, hey, B flat and F are a fifth apart, and they're the tonic and dominant of the key of B flat major. Going back to the beginning of this video, going dominant to tonic is just a way of establishing a key. So this is an important relationship that makes sense. And then the F major just comes from the B flat major mode, so we're shifting back to major here, which makes sense because we have a B flat major triad here in measure 13. Of note, it's also common for composers to use the dominant from the major mode just because it's stronger, even if you're sticking in the minor mode. So now that F major makes a little bit more sense now, so now we're going to look at the relationship between this C major and this F. That same little bell should be going off in your head right now because C and F are a fifth apart. C is the dominant and F is the tonic in the key of F major. You're probably asking, since when are we in the key of F major? That shows you're paying attention because we've only been in B flat major and B flat minor this whole time. The only time it even sort of looks like we could be in F major is in these two measures. And yet we still have this dominant tonic progression that I told you can establish a key. So did we actually change keys? Not quite. This sort of thing happens a lot, especially in the Western European classical canon, and it's called tonicization. Basically, tonicization does this dominant tonic progression not to change keys, but to make a chord stronger sounding. So in the case of this C major to F major here, what Kondo did was tonicize the F to make it sound a little bit stronger, which then makes its movement to B flat even stronger as well. So when we use the dominant of the dominant here, so C is the dominant of F, which is the dominant of B flat, it's called a secondary dominant or an applied dominant depending on whose textbook you're using. They're the same exact thing, just different names. Now you know about chromatic harmony and the Legend of Zelda main theme, and follow for more.